when my son turned 13, my brother gave him a piece of paper that said, this entitles you to a blitz mitzvah. And then he explained that a blitz mitzvah was the coming of age celebration for a non-Jewish boy. And he said, I'm going to give you a trip. I'm going to give you a trip that you can help shape as long as you're willing to expand your horizons and try new things. It was pretty brilliant for 13, all right? They had a fabulous time together, and so these buddy trips became their thing. Every summer they would take like a long weekend together. So I would love to have been in the room the year that my son said to his uncle, where I really want to go this year is to France, to the beaches of Normandy to study World War II, because that broke all the Blitz Mitzvah rules. But my brother knew that Jordan's interest in World War II was sincere, so he decided to splurge. And he said, all right, this one time we'll take a long trip. We'll fly into Paris, we'll take a train to Normandy, and then we'll rent a car and I'll get you to all 5 of the beaches. And my brother says that Jordan was very grateful. And then he went one step further. He said, well, here's the thing. There's no way I can go to Paris without my mother. I'd never live it down. So you have to take her too. So on Mother's Day that year, I got a piece of paper and it said, Happy Mother's Day, I'm taking you to France. And I wanted to show him that I could be sort of like part of the band of brothers. So on D-Day that year, which fell right before the trip, I met him at the door when he came home from school wearing a little French hat with Edith Piaf playing in the background. I didn't know he was bringing a friend. And I invited them to try one of the military hats I had gathered and to come in and have a taste of Paris. And I basically was that kind of a goofball the whole time we were there. I'd like to call myself an American goofball in Paris. I had vowed I was going to eat about a year's worth of bread in 2 days, but I had no language skills. So I would go into a patisserie and I would just point at everything I wanted and then I'd throw my money down on the counter and hope the clerks were honest. And everybody would laugh, but I knew that the boys were embarrassed. I knew that. But they just let me have my fun. And I had a picture of them sitting in the Luxembourg Gardens on a park bench eating those pastries in what I'd like to call croissant hunch, when you go like this to eat so the crumbs go down on the ground and not on your clothes, okay? We had a lot of fun in Paris, but it was time to get to the heart of our trip, which was World War II. So we were on the train headed through the French countryside. We're pretty in sync with each other at this point. I really am feeling like they're letting me be a buddy, you know? And I look over at my brother, and he's studying his French dictionary, like really intensely. And I'm trying to figure it out, and then I realize that my brother, who shall be played by Matt Damon in the movie, is trying to memorize what to say to rent a car in French. And my heart goes out to him. I was so nervous for him in the car dealership that I literally turned my back, because I can't even order a bottle of water in French without mispronouncing it. But the next thing I know, he has car keys, we're in the car, and I'm holding a French map that I cannot read. But we make it to the beaches of Omaha that first day, and I watch my son reverently scoop up a little bottle of sand to take home with him. And then I watched him take in the significance of those white crosses in the cemetery that he had seen in Saving Private Ryan. Those crosses go on forever. The next day, I watched Michael and Jordan crawl in and out of bunkers that the Germans had left behind in I can't say it, Jordan. Thank you. And they actually were having fun. It was sort of like romping. Do you know what I mean? We stood in that little French town where the paratrooper fell and got stuck on the spire of the church. His parachute is there to this day in tribute to what the Americans did when they liberated that town. That man hung there for a very long time, pretending to be dead to hide from the Nazis. And there is a tribute to the Americans in that little church. We went to museums, we read letters from soldiers, and at every turn, history became human. Now, there was some humor along the way. We had promised him 5 beaches, But some of the littler towns were hard to find, and we were running out of time. We had a train to catch. And so when we got to the last beach, Michael and I didn't even get out of the car. We just said, "Run, Jordan, run." And he ran down to the beach and he scooped up his sand and he jumped in the car, and we made it back and we got on our train. Because the final leg of our journey was that Michael had booked passage on the bullet train. We were going to England, and we were going to spend a day and a night in London. Did I get to see the Tower of London, which has always been my dream? No, I went to Churchill's bunker. How much World War II can one woman take, right? But honestly, on the plane going back, I looked over at those two knuckleheads, and they were sharing earbuds and watching Saving Private Ryan on their computer, true to the cause to the very end. My son is 25 now. He still has those 5 bottles on his shelf, and by the way, each of the sands is distinct. They're all very different. He has a degree from the University of Vermont in history. He minored in the Holocaust. He recently was taken on the next leg of that journey. Michael got him to Germany and to Poland, to Auschwitz. People often ask him what he's going to do with his history degree, and I would like to answer that today. He's going to be a fine, thinking human being, and I am really proud to be his buddy. Thank you.